It's that time again, and unfortunately today I have to talk about Ocugen. Before I get into it though, I have to say, and I keep emphasizing that I'm not a medical professional. This is not medical advice. This is not anything outside of observation and opinions that I've seen online. And the credibility of it may not warrant its full completeness of it. So it is on the onus falls upon you to check with an actual licensed and practicing medical professional that you trust and verify any information that is specific to your situation because everybody's different. I also think you should stick to the end of the video as well because a lot of people seem to read the headlines of something and just get angry and stuff like that. But if I was to use an analogy, I would say it's literally like taking a bottle of random pills without actually reading what the label says and what the side effects could also be. So, Ocugen, where did you come from? Where did you go? They were originally a SPAC that reverse merged onto the NASDAQ exchange, and they changed their names from Histogenics to Ocugen because it's basically a play on what they focused on before, COVID and everything. They have two drugs that focus on trying to cure disease blindness and stuff like that, and they're essentially really rare diseases as well. But I'm going to focus on the COVID one because there's a lot more. It's essentially the hot thing right now, unfortunately, but I'm going to focus more on that because this thing is the closest thing they have to actually moving something onto the market because they don't have anything right now. This thing could be their first one. All right, so I'm going to scoot over to the 10K here. This is around page 3, and it's saying that they have ongoing phase 3 trials right now in India for their drug called COVAXIN. And COVAXIN is a drug that they are pairing off against, they're co-developing it with Bharat Biotech. But what Ocugen is looking to do is that they're trying to get FDA approval with their COVID vaccine, and they are trying to get also a EUA, which is an emergency use authorization, so that they can basically ramp up production and get this thing out and going and get people vaccinated for COVID and everything. Right around page 3 here, it mentions that COVAXIN demonstrated a vaccine efficacy rate of 81% in the first interim analysis of phase 3 trials. And what vaccine efficacy is basically a percentage reduction in disease in a vaccinated group of people compared to an unvaccinated group. And essentially, what this is if you guys have ever done a science experiment in high school, you'll know that like you have your test group, and then you also have your control group, which you don't do anything with, right? They're just left normal, and then the other one is you conduct the experiment on. And what they didn't mention in this front end until you actually read a little bit later down the filing was that this is actually 2 doses, and you get the first dose, which I don't know how much the efficacy rate is, but you have to wait 28 days later, and when you're not a zombie, come in for your second dose to bring yourself up to an 81% efficacy rate. Just before page 4, you're going to see them mention their competitors, such as Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J. No mention of AstraZeneca, but I'm going to have this chart explain most of it anyways. So as you guys can see, here's all the companies and their drugs listed, and they also, for the two dose ones, not only are they either around less than the 28 days, especially these two cases here, you'll see what the efficacy rate is for the first shot and then the second shot afterwards as well. Am I saying that these guys have superior products? It's kind of likely, but right now that they're going through a shortage right now, and obviously it's reserved for people who are essential workers, and so forth right now. So this might just offer another option, and I think that's what they're trying to look for right now with this Covaxin drug. They're trying to offer another option to everybody in the current market where supply is very low. Now, where Ocugen's drug differs from a lot of these other drugs is that these other drugs, they kind of, and this is talked about in there, where, to my understanding, they say that these other drugs sort of spike the proteins and it tells the body to say, hey, there is a virus in here. You guys need to get ready to fight and everything, right? What Covaxin does is that they essentially introduce a whole, I think it was called like a whole virion inactivated cell or whatever, right? And that to me, the way I read it is basically it's a dead lab grown COVID cell that they have, and they inject into your body, and then once your white blood cells find it and digest it and whatever, it'll say like, okay, so this is a virus. This is how we fight it. So your body essentially has a battle plan. It's not saying that you are immune to COVID. It's just saying that when you get COVID, you will essentially stand a better chance because you guys will have the antigens, or you guys will have the tools necessary in your body to fight off what COVID's trying to bring to your body. Right around here, around page 32 and 34 and so forth, they talk about a lot about their risk and a lot of their financial risk as well. And the first issue I see so far is that they have no products in the market right now. They don't have a history of putting any products out there. So that's a little troubling to me because it tells me that they're not making money and they have no history of making money, which if they were to find a home run somewhere, it could take years, maybe several years to before they actually become profitable, if they become profitable and don't crash in between. There's a lot of like stuff interwoven in there. Like, for example, in my notes, there was the stockholders as of March 1st, 2021, there was 188 million shares that were held by 21 stockholders of record. So the guys who actually held it for when they actually recorded who was actually holding it. And while the number is actually greater and has holders who are beneficial owners and or those who are held by a brokerage, it doesn't include shares held in by trusts or other entities. So again, the only way they're actually, raising capital funds is to do share dilutions. And they did one, I believe, in March for like $100 million. And the the issue with that as a shareholder is that what if this company told you, hey, we're gonna dilute the value of your shares, your current holdings in us. We're just gonna keep doing it over and over again. We'll pay you back in a couple of years if we can for an investor, especially someone who's wanting to retire in the next, like, I want to say 5-10 years, that might be a little troublesome to them, and they might just want to pull out at that moment. And depending on the size of that stockholder, it could literally again cause another scenario where the stock literally tanks, which then could likely tank the company, right, and hurt future share dilution events that they need. Um, there's that type of risk in there, as well as let's see, stuff like their drugs, for example. Their drugs could either fail some of the phase trials. It could not get the EUA that everybody's looking for, or even approval from the FDA. Period. It could kill someone. Um, all these are like significant risk factors that could tank the stock and or obliterate the company. There is so much risk on here. I've never read so many like different types of risks that they can encounter, as well as which is, I find this really funny because they mentioned in the financial risk section that their expenses will definitely increase. And currently, right now, they have about 24 million cash on hand, or cash equivalents and restricted cash and so forth. The last year's operational losses or net losses were up 21 million. And I think that they have enough cash to survive for maybe like until the end of 2020 or so, or sorry, until the end of 2021. But from then on, I have no idea. Like they're just paying off their debts. They're not paying any of their debts. They're accumulating more debts right now. And let's say if they did have a home run with this COVAXIN drug, right? And this is another risk factor. If they had a home run with it, they have to start revving up production of it and manufacturing, which is going to increase their costs. So they might burn out all their cash that they have that they're like holding on to survive to the end of the year, which then creates a problem because they don't get that money instantly when they start manufacturing and shipping that drug. The shipping doesn't magically teleport there the next day, and same thing with the payments for that thing. There is a set time, as far as I remember, when they actually get paid, and in that time, this company could literally just go under from lack of funding. So to wrap up, no, mom and dad, I'm not a doctor yet, and I don't plan on being one. I dislike Ocugen. There's way too much risk involved. They're literally nobody's, and they have no claim to fame for any drugs that they have ever pushed out to market. They don't have anything there. Not only that, a lot of the boards I read seem to think that because of the recent events in India with the COVID boom and everything, um, it could be a great target market for Ocugen. But the problem I see there is that they're still in phase trials, which is going to take a little bit more time, and they're still looking for an EUA authorization from the FDA. All these fancy buzzwords, they're nice and everything, but you also have to consider what their competition is. They have four other competitors, which are well funded and well established and are already selling their vaccine and distributing it and so forth, right? Um, what Ocugen is doing essentially is that they are essentially ambulance chasing. And I don't think COVID's exactly a growth market, and that's just my personal opinion. But yeah, that's basically all I have to say on the subject. What do you guys think? Leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, and just remember, just because you're a day trader doesn't mean you have to trade every single day.